Today's episode of Formidable Opponents is presented by Meissen. Virtually every chef agrees that a sharp, well-balanced chef's knife is the essential workhorse for any kitchen. A great knife should feel good in your hand, stay sharp, and hold up over time to the rigors of your kitchen. Simple, right? But behind these deceptively simple concepts are centuries of tradition, technology, design, and craft. Meissen spent 4 years developing the perfect knife because every little detail matters. Meissen went through 37 different prototypes until they knew they had the perfect knife. The final result? A knife that's a pleasure to hold, sharp enough to plow through even the toughest foods, and a blade that stays sharper longer. The best part is by partnering closely with their factories and selling directly online, Meissen is able to offer incredible cookware at wholesale pricing. Go to the link in our show notes to get your Meissen knife today. Meissen, the perfect knife at an unreal price. And now our show. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 27 of Formidable Opponents, a show that pits three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is the best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we all debate about. I'm Randall, and with me as always, Bob and Joseph, and today's topic is Best Nirvana Song. Before we do that, we want to send a shout out to Dina at Creative Little Pill for the awesome artwork on our cover. Once again, you can follow her on Instagram at Creative Little Pill. So today's topic, Best Nirvana Song. Continuing with our Legends of Rock series. Last time we did ZZ Top. Today we are doing Nirvana. Nirvana is often revered as the band that defined Generation X. You know, the slacker generation, the one with rising divorce rates, latchkey kids, and for those of us fortunate enough, a computer room. Don't you dare pick up that damn landline when I'm on AOL chat. The luxury, of course, countered our bleak, cynical, and disaffected existence. In true Gen X fashion, Nirvana was given a responsibility they never expected, or possibly never even wanted. Nirvana popularized the 90s grunge scene. You remember grunge, right? Distorted guitar fusing elements of fast punk and rhythm metal, coupled with nihilistic, angst-ridden despair, skinny misanthropic lumberjacks with tousled hair and vacuous eyes. The money you saved on soap and spray starch was phenomenal. Grunge is now commercial. That's right. Musicians who look like grocery baggers were now our rock idols. During this time, Nirvana went on to become one of the best-selling bands of all time, having sold more than 75 million records worldwide. Keep in mind, the apotheosis of this band was only 2.5 years. Despite the ephemeral apex, the band skyrocketed to a place in rock history that takes decades for legends to reach. Lastly, their legacy far outsees their apathy, abjection, and angst, which they married sonically and tonally with distorted guitar shreds, masterful rhythm switch, pulse-pounding drumming, and that raspy, powerful voice of frontman Kurt Cobain. Screaming anger, screaming influence, screaming truth. Today, we are discussing Nirvana. Bob and Joseph, before I start off with this first question, I wanted to share something with you guys. We're doing this series on music legends. The thing about this show that I really enjoyed is I always feel like it's kind of a pop culture bucket list. Like you get to spend a week to research these things. You know, we spend a week researching Saved by the Bell. We spend a week researching Rocky Opponents. And this week I discovered how fucking great Nirvana really was. I don't think I really got it when they were at their apex. And I wanted to see how you guys felt. I mean, what does Nirvana's music mean to you guys?
It's so crazy. Like you said, going back and listening to music and their albums and singles and, you know, hearing their Bleach album. One of my favorite ones of all time is their Unplugged album. I actually own it. I had it on DVD when it first came out. I recorded it on my TV when it first came out on MTV. That fucking album that concert was just one I could watch over and over and over again. Everything about these guys, the type of music, they're from every little meticulous guitar solo or riff, the drumming beat, the bass lines, you know, every little thing they did, and their songs were so fucking powerful and so great. The Nevermind album, I listened to that damn album front to back, you know what I mean? I don't know, 5 or 6 times this week over the past like 5 days, man. And I want to say there's at least 7 songs in the damn thing that I had I struggled to figure out which was my favorite that I loved, that I thought of or I hadn't heard in a while. I was like, fuck, I used to listen to this song all the time in high school. They're such a great band, man. I'm really happy and excited to be talking about this topic.
Randy, go ahead and ask that question again, please. I just want you to ask it again for the record.
Sure.
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
No.
What does Nirvana's music mean to you, Joseph?
Good. I just wanted you to ask that again, because I have to say just about everything. It means everything to me. It basically opened the doors for everything that I listen to now. Granted, the genre of music that I listen to now is not always, or my favorite particular genre of music is not the same as grunge. I'm a metalhead. Everybody knows I'm a metalhead. But my first experience with, distorted guitars and pounding drums and screaming vocals and, anger was with Nirvana. And actually I owe my whole music identity to this band, and particularly this album, specifically because it's the, like I said, the first thing I heard at, the young age that wasn't, what was on, and granted, I love classic rock, but it wasn't, my parents, classic rock music, on the way to school. As far as I can remember, experience with some type of different rock music. And like I said, I owe my whole musical identity to this band.
You guys brought up an important thing that I neglected to mention. We are celebrating the 30-year anniversary of Nevermind being released, and also 28 years after In Utero. They were both released in September, and it's just it's important to note that. I want to share a story with you guys, and then I want to follow up by asking you the same, or I want to follow up by asking you this question. First time you heard Nirvana, I got a story, and I'd like to share that with you guys, and then relay the message to you. I was in the 9th grade. I was 14 years old. I was just starting off in high school. And for those of you who follow our Instagram, you saw that I posted a bunch of cassettes of, stuff I listened to in junior high, a lot of hardcore rap music and everything. And that's what I liked in junior high. Although by looking at me, you couldn't tell.
Don't he know he white?
So when I got to freshman year of high school, I didn't really have the easiest of transitions. Within a month, I got sent to the ISS. For those of you guys that don't know what the ISS, it's in-school suspension. It's usually held by the meanest, nastiest coach, and you can't talk, you don't do your work, you just sit there. And so I got into a little bit of a ruckus in one of my classes, and I got sent to in-school suspension for a day. And I was having a really bad day, not really liking the transition to high school. So I get home.
Breakfast Club, but not fun.
It was, exactly. And I didn't get to walk the field afterwards. So when I got home, and you guys know, because you guys would stay at my mom's house or at my parents' house after school. And you guys were probably in kindergarten at the time. So I probably walked right past you because I was not in a good mood that day. You guys probably had like fucking Kool-Aid and chocolate fudge on your face. And I said, fuck you kids. I went straight to my room, and this video came on. And I remember throwing down my backpack, and immediately I was just mesmerized by this song. It was obviously Smells Like Teen Spirit. I had never heard anything like it before. Remember, we were coming off rock music that was glam metal. Everybody looked like they had lipstick and leather chaps, and they had the fluffed up hair. These guys look like the skateboarders you'd see at the convenience store. And it was just amazing. And I remember that moment. This is the band that's going to represent me. And that's why I became such a big Nirvana fan. Without hesitation, say they're my favorite band of all time. And that they meant so much to me. So I knew the exact moment that I became a Nirvana fan. What about you guys? When was the first time you heard of them?
I think I've mentioned this before, and you kind of just touched on this subject. Being at your house, like I said, I've told this story. It was your house. You had, I think, just gotten a new CD player boombox. I think I could be wrong, but you did mention that you had and you posted the pictures of the gangster rap tapes. This may have been your first CD purchase because you had just gotten the CD player.
Yeah. CD player. It plays CDs.
It plays CDs. You had just gotten this new boombox. You were really happy about it, and you put this on. We were playing video games. We weren't going to listen to sports talk baseball or whatever it was we were playing. We weren't going to hear that audio. We were going to hear this album, and we listened to it from front to back. That was the first time. And just like you kind of mentioned yourself, the kickoff to Smells Like Teen Spirit. That's what I meant when I said like what Nirvana's music meant to me. It it was something amazing. And even at a young age, I don't know if you dated us with
like, was it 92? I think we were like in second grade.
I think, kinder. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Oh, okay.
Damn it, how old are we? Fuck.
I was like 92. Yeah, I think we were like, at least we were what?
First, second grade.
Yeah, something like that. We had about 9, 10 or something. I don't know. Anyway.
I think you left out the part where you like lied on your bread and ferociously wrote in your journal before you heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Right?
but yeah, man, that's my first time hearing them, and like I said, I think I've thanked you for that. I think I've told you that before. I mean, it's my music identity now.
I do remember that moment you playing Nevermind, but you know what's funny is of course everybody saw the damn "Smells Like Teen Spirit" music video, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But the song I remember was "Drain You." For some reason, I don't know if another cousin of mine that used to play it all the time, Ken, or for some reason, "Drain You," it seems to be the song that really stuck out to me from that album. I want to say I had it on like recorded tape. You know what I mean? You put in the blank tape and record off the CD for any of y'all that were fortunate to have that CD player with a cassette tape mix, or like the tape player that you could record. All you got to do is put it next to the speaker, right? I want to say "Drain You" was my first experience. It wasn't necessarily my first experience with Nirvana and Nevermind, but "Drain You" was a song that stuck out, and I like knew every lyric, knew every drum cymbal hit, knew every where they jammed out. It was that song, dude. So a little different, but yes, I do remember that moment. Being at your house and you playing the Nevermind album on CD for us. Like every day for a couple of weeks straight, which was fucking awesome.
Maybe you heard "Drain You" on The Adventures of Pete and Pete, which was like the grunge Nickelodeon's grunge show.
Well, yeah,
do you remember that show?
They were in plaid. Pete had a tattoo in his arm.
Specifically, actually, no, I do remember hearing that song, and I talked to Bob about this. I go, this is the only time I could be wrong because maybe they didn't want it then. I'm like about 80% sure at the end of one Pete and Pete episode back in the days, the beginning of "Drain You" started playing, as the credits started to roll. Somebody would have to look that up, but I'm about like 80% sure.
We're gonna have to look it up.
And I thought it was cool because I was like, hey, it's fucking Nirvana, like on Pete and Pete. I was like, it was so cool. Like,
"Drain You," notorious for sampling a rubber ducky in that song.
You're the one.
Yes. Nevermind is their biggest album and most well-known album, as we know. But guys, are we sure it's their best album?
100%.
Remember, Nirvana was only mainstream for 2.5 years, and here we are 30 years later talking about them. Is Nevermind their best album? What do you guys think?
Well, in comparison with Bleach and in Utero, you have to say Nevermind is their best album. Again, like I mentioned a little while ago, like going through it from first song to last song over and over this whole week, there's at least 8 fucking hits on that damn album, man. From "Breathe" to "Territorial Pissings" to "Drain You," fucking "Come As You Are," "Smells Like Teen Spirit," "In Bloom." I mean, shit, dude. Every single song, I want to say, maybe not every single song, but just about every single fucking song on that album is amazing and has some kind of connection with their fans. And everybody has a favorite from that album. In Utero does have a lot of great songs, All Apologies, Heart-Shaped Box. But it doesn't have, I don't think it has as many singles or as big an impact as the other albums do.
Yeah, I'd have to say I'd agree. Part of me I went back and forth on this because I did listen to both albums like you guys did too. I mean, obviously I've listened to them way before, but to get prepared for this, this whole thing that we were going to do, I was reminded of out of the 3, studio albums, and we haven't mentioned Bleach, but there's a lot of good songs on there as well.
I just mentioned Bleach.
Oh, you did?
Bleach.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mentioned Bleach. And,
I apologize.
It's all right.
Sometimes I block you out. No.
Just when you're trying to sleep at night.
The 3 studio albums, like you mentioned, 4 if you want to count Insecticide, which is it's just a few. It's B-sides, a lot of maybe some different versions of other songs, and then a lot of previously unreleased songs, which are actually good songs too. So it could kind of be its own album, but it's not. As we know, I'm gonna have to. If I'm going to listen to a Nirvana album front to back, no skips, it's going to be Nevermind. I got to agree with that 100%, Bob. I had the cassette tape way back in the days, and I listened to it front and back, side A to side B, and I never skipped any song. And and listening to these 2 albums and listening to In Utero, there's probably like 2 songs that I'll skip. And that's not to say that they're not good songs. I just, you know what, I skipped them. So
Dumb
and I
is
don't
what
do that
song
with
I'll skip.
Nevermind.
Yeah.
I think you're dumb. What?
You skip dumb? How could you skip
It's
dumb,
he
the-
bro?
doesn't like.
it's the
he doesn't
only
like
Nirvana.
dumb.
The only
But he'll fucking
Nirvana
play
song
Polly left and right all day long.
Dude,
The fast version.
that's
Hey,
such a good
Let me
song.
ask you a question, though. Let me throw this out there since we're talking about albums. I know the Unplugged, Nirvana Unplugged, technically it is an album. How would you compare that to their others? I mean, shit, I think that can give Nevermind a run for its money. Not saying that it's better than Nevermind or vice versa, but Nirvana Unplugged was pretty fucking amazing.
It's a great album, yes. I don't know. I mean, I'll put it up there. See, and then here's where the fucking the problem happens, because then we're gonna start. You try to start ranking these albums, and would you put this one before? Would you put it above Nevermind, or would you put it before In Utero? As much as I love that album, it is just a performance live album. I love that album, but again, it's just songs that we know, and the cover songs that they do, the B-side stuff are great. And I know that wasn't what was cool about that album. Is so fucking cool is that it's not what MTV wanted. But you know what? That didn't matter, because Kurt didn't fucking care what MTV wanted. And so that's why I think that album is really cool. But I don't know, man, just because it's not like it's that live album. Yeah, it's hard for me to put it up there, call it maybe one of their best, because it is an album, but it's a live album. So yeah, that's my thing on that one. What about you, Randy?
The Nirvana Unplugged album is Nirvana in full apex. They've had all this cachet. You can have the Unplugged album and have it revered and listened to and just admired without Nevermind. So it kind of begat that. Also, a big thing for Unplugged is that if you look at the audience, it's totally wrong fucking audience for a Nirvana a special. Everybody's in polos, and they got their nice combed hair, and they're these like rich New York kids.
Wasn't
and
it like a lot of the producers, like family and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that doesn't spoil what they brought to the table on that live album, but I just think that they were so good at that point that anything they would have covered would have been amazing, and that's why that live album is so good. I don't think it's better than Nevermind, but some of the songs they're just jarring. I mean, they will shake you to the core. You
put it above In Utero, Bob? Just curious.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Would put the first 5 songs in Utero, I would put it up against any 5 songs out of any albums. Once they hit, I think Dumb, that's when it starts.
Well, wasn't there like 13 songs off that album?
I
he's
heard
very
2
smart,
insults.
so he's very smart. Didn't you hear you use the word cachet is French?
I heard 2 insults at the same time. I don't know which one I'm going to edit out. We'll see what's going on. Moving on. We're discussing why we think that what is the best Nirvana song as opposed to really our favorite. What are we looking for when we're saying our best? What would define the best Nirvana song? Because it's difficult. It was tough to narrow it down to 10, even tougher to narrow it down to a handful. But when we say best Nirvana song, what are you guys looking for? What are their trademarks?
I'd have to say most lasting and most memorable. As much as, and it's like you mentioned, it's hard to separate our favorites from what we think. And yeah, we're probably going to mention, I know we're going to talk about singles, the singles that were released. And it's, fuck, I lost my train of thought. Hold on.
Who's dumb now?
I think, yeah. So again, yeah, I think it's going to be about what's most enduring, I guess, for the song. You're gonna have to throw in the commercial use probably as well, and see, like, and in doing so, and doing a lot of research, and the song that I picked, I kind of, and this is a completely might not make sense with this, but Nirvana is one of these bands that I don't like hearing covers from. I really don't like hearing a band do covers.
I agree.
Of Nirvana songs.
I agree.
And
especially Puddle of Mud.
I did look for a few covers of the song that I picked it, and there was one that I did hear way back, and I listened to it again, and I said, wow, I really like this cover, and that's hard for me to say.
Is it Tori Amos?
No, it was not. No,
Tori, she does a great cover, Smells Like Teen Spirit. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've heard that one, and I think there's another famous musician that did a cover of my song, and it kind of made news, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, so I think that too, that comes into play with what songs we hear more of. You don't, not that, like I said, I hate to see covers, but you don't see a lot of people covering Lithium and In Bloom and On a Plane
and Dumb.
Although I would like to see it, but that's me.
I wanted to say I like the word endearing that you used, and I would even go so far as say impactful. I think when choosing the greatest song of a band or an album, I would say the song that has the most impact. I'm sure we'll get into a little more of that once we delve into each one of our picks, but something that's endearing and then impactful, like commercial success. I mean, shit, you can see a lot of commercial success, and that can only get you so far. It probably means a bunch of dudes in polo shirts were fucking buying your albums, right? But right. I would say the impact of that particular song, it will take you a whole lot farther than just the commercial success that it had.
And I agree with you guys. I think it's when you think of impactful, there was just some songs that just I played over and over. One of the things, and this is leading to my next question. It's obvious they made their mark with "Smells Like Teen Spirit." It's neither of our selections, but I know that I heard a YouTube recording of "Smells Like Teen Spirit" that it's supposedly the first time they played it. Might have been like the 10th time, who knows? But if you YouTube it, it's just so surreal when Kurt Cobain gets on the microphone and says, "This is a song called Smells Like Teen Spirit." And you don't hear a damn thing. You can hear a pin drop, and then they jam out. The song sounds totally different. And of course, once they got produced by Butch Vig, the song was a little more poppy. It was a little less away from the Pixies and more radio friendly. It Smells Like Teen Spirit, the impact that it had. What are your thoughts on that, Bob? I know you wanted to talk a little bit about it.
Like you said, none of us picked it, but I think I talked about it extensively when we did our best 90s rock song,
right?
Which is a song I chose. I chose "Smells Like Teen Spirit" because of its huge impact on the 90s and grunge music, commercial grunge music, and pop and in general in the 90s, and that direction that rock music went. So I didn't want to touch on it again. I probably feel like y'all feel the same way. We, after discussing it, detailed, arguing about it and saying why it was how I had such a big impact, why it was one of the greatest songs ever, how it changed rock music in the early 90s. I feel like talking about it again, we would only be saying the same shit over and over. And I didn't want to do that, because Nirvana was more than just one song and more than just one album. And I really wanted to pay tribute to their other great songs, as well as you all chose some really great songs as well. So I didn't want to go back into "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Everybody knows what "Smells Like Teen Spirit" is. Everybody's heard that song. Everybody's jammed to that song. Everybody knows what kind of impact it's had. But we wanted to discuss a few others that may have had a bigger impact in hindsight.
I mean, clearly it's going to be the song that they're most famous for. You cannot mention Nirvana without saying "Smells Like Teen Spirit." I mentioned this to Bob a few times, and I've noticed myself actually, doing it when I listen to playlists. I know I talked about earlier about how if I'm going to listen to an album front to back, it's going to be Nirvana's Nevermind. If I'm listening to a playlist of on Amazon Music, best Nirvana songs or whatever, I've found myself actually skipping the song. And I think in a way, I kind of, we kind of get what Kurt felt about that song after its success. It's clear, like I mentioned, that the impact is great. We don't see a lot of Nirvana songs licensed for movies and commercials and things like that. And I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon, considering all the fucking legal problems that come with that. Yes, that means you, Courtney. But I think it's clearly the one that they put them on the map, as much as that might have been, to the chagrin. Is that a word?
It's a great word.
To the chagrin of
not
Kurt.
So dumb.
Yeah, not so dumb. To the chagrin of Kurt, it is what it is. I mean, it's huge. It did open them up to a wider audience. The song was properly produced, like you mentioned, to take this sound that was so at the time underground and its own little best kept secret and bring it to the masses, and and then it was everywhere. So it's clearly its impact is huge, and it's never going to not be, because we can't talk about Nirvana without talking about "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and we can't put together a list of best 90s songs. No publication can do such a thing without listing that one particular Nirvana song.
Chagrin's a good word. I would have gone with consternation, but chagrin's good. So
all right, you get that way after eating a lot of cheese.
So I was watching a Nirvana interview, the Seattle region, the Seattle grunge, the Seattle sound, just being so geographically isolated in the Northwest. Seattle was a city that a lot of big bands skipped because it's not at the time, it wasn't a happening city, always raining. And Seattle kind of created their own sound, right? A lot of kids in their garages, in their basement. You can't play outside because it's raining. It's cold all the time. And so we saw that region create all these bands. And we had so many bands coming up in the early 90s that were just making a huge impact. No other band, of course, made a bigger impact than Nirvana. And Nirvana hit it huge in 1991. My question to you guys, has any rock band since reached the cultural crescendo that Nirvana hit in 1991? If so, who? And if not, why? Has there been a band? Who?
Metallica. Metallica is, look, it might not be the best answer, but Metallica is the biggest metal band on the planet. Enough said. Yes, they're one of my favorite bands, and people might not like them now or how they go about their business or say, you know, I'm the old school Metallica fan. You may not like it, but, you know, you can't deny their career, their success, you can't deny how big they are. You know, when they move, you know, people listen, bands listen. When they put something out, it makes noise. Yes, they're not around you know, I know you the question was the Nirvana in 91. And if I'm wrong in my response, I'm sorry. I thought you meant maybe just like in general and maybe not, you know, the 90s, but yeah, I mean, look at them. Like it's Metallica. It's like Metallica, the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones. You know, I know we only got one Beatle left. Led Zeppelin. I mean, there's plenty of bands that just their success is never ending and have reached like heights that like above and beyond.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add to that. I agree with Joseph 100%. Metallica, man. Metallica, this went from this 80s thrash metal band, and they've evolved over time and had album after album and huge success after huge success. And maybe Nirvana would have had something similar had the circumstances been different. But Metallica is one of those bands, man. Like Joseph said, they're big influence on the rock scene, you know, rock bands, from old rock bands to new rock bands, you know, they look for Metallica albums to get inspired for their, you know, their solos with Kurt, their drums with Lars, the way James sets his riffs and openings for his songs, man, the way they develop hit after hit in the rock scene, and even going back to the kind of their thrash metal hits with Death Magnetic and you know, with Saint Anger, you know, all these hard rock songs. They are the epitome of what a great hard rock band is, and I think they've had just as much. As a matter of fact, I think they've had more of an impact on rock music than any other band has. Is from the 90s to now.
Hard to argue that. Metallica's been through so much crap, through tragedy, through lineup changes, through management, through different. They've had, of course, the luxury of keeping their core band and fighting through all that and evolving and changing. Nirvana, of course, were in the mainstream music, where they were mainstream for 2.5 years. They were a band since 1987 when they formed in Aberdeen. Went through a couple of drummers, but when you're talking about the cultural recognition that Nirvana had, it was essentially when Nevermind was released up until Kurt Cobain passed away. And for that short time, it's just amazing. The fact that we could even mention them alongside a band like Metallica, alongside a band like Led Zeppelin, I think it says a lot for them. And I honestly do think that they were cheated out of a legacy that maybe a Metallica has or Led Zeppelin has. But my last question for the beginning, before we get to our honorable mentions, does it piss you off as much as it does me when somebody under the age of 34 wears a Nirvana t-shirt? Name 5 songs, goddammit. Name 5 songs.
No, it doesn't bother me. I think that they're like the Target special now, so Courtney's making a quick buck off of that shit. But I don't think it doesn't bother me much. As a matter of fact, if I see somebody with that shirt, I'm like, that's a badass shirt, dude. What's your favorite song? But it doesn't bother me at all.
It kind of does, but I know there's a lot of but not the kids that you know. Grumpy. Like no, you got kids like your kid bro, that listens to the, knows good music. He does. He knows good music. And I'm sure your kid too, man. Your boy knows good music. Why? Because you showed him good music.
He likes Old Town Road, but I'm going to hold that against.
But, there's a lot of young under 34. We're talking like toddlers and young, preteens that wear, a Nirvana shirt. Because why? Because their parents are, they're Gen Xers. And you know what? They want them to experience what they experience. And hopefully, they did like it, and it's not something that they're forcing on their kids. But growing up, since I wore a lot of band t-shirts in junior high and in high school, sometimes that puts you label. I was a freaking jock, but you get labeled sometimes as a misfit or whatever. I remember one time I was standing outside of a restaurant, I was wearing a Metallica shirt, and some guy came and started talking to me about Jesus and God, like if I was some kind of Satanist. And I was like, yeah, I was like stunned at why he wanted to talk to me about this stuff, but it was because I was wearing a fucking Metallica shirt.
Did he ask you for money at the end?
No, he didn't ask me for money, but he wanted me to have a good Christian life or something like that. Considering I was one of those kids that wore shirts all the time, and to see people that never listened to this music, and never gave him the time of day, doing it as a fashion statement, it is kind of annoying and upsetting. Because I mean, it's like I think there's that one Kardashian chick that was wearing a Cannibal Corpse shirt the other day. You don't know who Cannibal Corpse is. Get the hell out of here. I don't know who they are.
Well, sure, she's dating Travis Barker now, so maybe she does.
You know who Cannibal Corpse is? They're the band that was playing in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective
live like 2 years ago before the pandemic.
Yeah,
hit.
True. That too.
I think I'm really disappointed that neither one of you used the word dumb. Especially you, Rand. You think it's dumb?
Joseph,
I think it's dumb.
Joseph used the word misfit. I couldn't wear my Nirvana shirt because in the pandemic I gained weight. It doesn't fit. So there's a misfit for you right there. Let's go on with our honorable mentions. Bob, give us your honorable mentions.
I'm gonna mention Breed, because Breed was my favorite song from that album, from the Nevermind album. I know we had that separation, and we talked about earlier this week about the separation between your favorite song and what the best song is. Breed is definitely my favorite song from there, from that album. Aneurysm off of Bleach. Drain You, of course, I mentioned that one. That song over and over again. I did love the Lead Belly cover on the Unplugged album, Where Did You Sleep Last Night? I think that one's fucking awesome, especially with all the background story with shit going on with Courtney, and then Kurt killing himself with only a few months later. That song to end that album and end that live show with that song was kind of crazy. I want to mention a song that probably nobody mentions because it came out so many years after the fact. You're right. I think that fucking song is awesome, and it's one of my favorite Nirvana songs. I know it came out as a single, X amount of years after Kurt had already passed away, but that song is fucking awesome, dude. I really, really, really enjoyed it and really like it.
Honorable mentions are like favorites, and
I had a list
crazy
of like 10
it.
songs. I was trying to
I have 10 of them. Yeah.
I mean, just off the top, Serve the Servants, Rape Me, Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle. Dumb, because Dumb is a good song. Very Ape,
not better than Polly.
Polly is on my list too. Like you mentioned, Drain You is probably one of my favorite songs too. Lounge Act, Something in the Way. I don't know if I already mentioned that one.
Yeah,
I will say Come As You Are. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't care. I don't know who that band is, and I don't give a fuck if they think that Nirvana stole their riff. I don't give a shit. Nobody knew who you were. This is Come As You Are. This is Nirvana's song. Shut the fuck up and walk. It's Come As You Are.
I think you need to hear Love Buzz to cheer you up.
No, Love Buzz too.
Love Buzz,
Damn, a Dive, School. Man, I forgot. I didn't even mention any songs from Bleach, but About a Girl. I mean, come on. I mean, they're all honorable mentions. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ren.
I got a few. Love Buzz, Shocking Blue cover, That Hypnotic Feel, just a great song. The one that really, Bob and Joseph, you guys both mentioned the Unplugged album, and of course the song that really got most of the attention was Where Did You Sleep Last Night? Did I get the title right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Song Where Did You Sleep Last Night? But the one that really got me on the replay was Jesus Don't Want Me for a Sunbeam.
Yeah,
Vaseline's covered.
Great fucking song, man.
Such a good song. I love Serve the Servants, and you can look at In Utero as a concept album. It's not a concept album, but he's talking about the reflection. The first lyrics of that album off this song is teenage angst has paid off well. now I'm old and now I'm bored and old. So he's like recognizing this could be my last hurrah. I mean, how many more years could he shout with laryngitis and pneumonia and that heroin addiction? I mean, were they going to have another Scream album? I don't know. Francis Farmer will have a Revenge on Seattle. Nirvana's doffing of the hat towards feminism, which is great. Drain You guys both mentioned that. I love Breed. Blue, which was the opening track on Bleach. I did list Smells Like Teen Spirit because I mean we talked about that. I mean, with this track, Nirvana helped to ignite the grunge craze, which was characterized by loud guitars, angst-ridden lyrics, and flannel. And Teen Spirits definitely established that quiet, loud dynamic. I think a few of our songs that we're going to mention today all have something in common. You have the quiet, loud dynamic, and I think it all started off with Smells Like Teen Spirit. So love those songs, and you could do a top 100 with Nirvana, and probably like 98, 99 of them are going to be awesome. Let's go ahead and pick our selections. Bob, you're up first. What is your best Nirvana song and why?
Best Nirvana song. Now, again, like it is with a lot of picks, but especially for Nirvana, this is really, really difficult. And trying to separate your favorite song from their best song, and try to come up with a good argument for it. I did a lot of thinking about it. I was actually the last person to pick a song when it came to this topic, and I chose Lithium. Lithium is it's the song. Thought long and hard about this song and played it over and over again. And I chose it for a specific reason. I'm kind of going to go in a different direction here, though. Not only did I choose this song because of its memorable opening lyrics and guitar riff, but because of its impact on the band itself and the direction that it took the band in. When we were talking about what makes a great Nirvana song, or what it's all about impact, in my point of view. Without Lithium, there's probably no Dave Grohl. Any fan of Nirvana can hear the sound difference from Bleach to Nevermind, and a lot of it has to do with the direction that Kirk wanted to take the band and the new drumming of Dave Grohl. After Bleach, the band began touring and also started their demos, like I said, with Vig for the Nevermind album, which included Lithium. Again, wanting to take the sound in that new direction. I want to say that even you, Ryan, you mentioned pop. Yeah, they wanted this grunge and they wanted this a little bit of pop for their new album. Kurt was really, really unsatisfied with the drum play of Chad Channing and was already thinking about making a change, but it all came to pass when they recorded the Lithium demo. Kurt created the arrangement for Chad Channing's drums, but Chad just couldn't deliver. Apparently, it was a straw that broke the camel's back. And soon after, Chad was let go from the band and replaced with, of course, the great Dave Grohl. Would Nirvana have all this commercial success if it hadn't made that change? Probably, maybe, who knows? I don't know. But Grohl did bring an extra piece to the table. You know what I mean? Dave Grohl added so much to that Nevermind album and their sound from then on out, because he's such a great musician, not just a drummer. Lithium is the song that facilitated this change. And that's why I think it has such an impact on Nirvana, on Nevermind, and on their sound and on the entirety of their music. So Lithium, it was Lithium. The song that Chad Channing couldn't deliver is what caused them to go in that separate direction, to pick up Dave Grohl. And I think it changed the band forever. Not to mention that the song has incredible lyrics. It tells a great story. The guitar play, the riffs. I mean, Nirvana and Kurt Cobain are known for its riffs, not necessarily their solos, but the guitar riffs and the different variety that he creates in every single song and every single album. The guitar riffs, the guitar plays, Chris's bass line, the drum beat and the drums that Dave Grohl plays in this song. Like you said, it's that new sound, that new grunge sound, that quiet to loud that became the rock sound of the 90s, that became Nirvana sound, that became the grunge movement that we saw in the 90s. And then it's all thankful to Lithium, because Lithium was the catalyst. Lithium brought us Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl and Kurt and Chris, they brought us Nevermind, the Nevermind album, and the sky was the limit there on after. I know it's not the typical argument, and I didn't talk about the charts, and I didn't talk about the commercial play, the music video, and yada, yada, yada. When you're talking about the greatest song of a band, it has to go to impact. And if this song is never played, this song is never created, if Kurt wasn't so particular about the drum play, the music, the sound, the type of music that they were becoming, the type of music that he wanted to create in the future, we would have had to say another Bleach album. And because he wanted to go in that new direction, because he was so particular, because he got rid of Chad Channing and brought in Dave Grohl, I think that it propelled them into superstardom, and Lithium was that catalyst.
Did you just yada yada sex? As we mentioned, another quiet, loud song. And Bob, you brought up something that I was going to save towards the end, but I think this is a perfect spot to recognize Dave Grohl and the transition from Chad Channing to Dave Grohl. And a lot of people will talk about the production and what Butch Vig brought to the table, but you don't fucking have Nevermind without Dave Grohl. I mean, the drums on every song were just genius. And a lot of people didn't give Dave Grohl credit as the years went on with Nirvana. He co-wrote a lot of the In Utero songs. He actually created a lot of the guitar riffs too. And not a lot of people know that Dave Grohl initially started off as a guitar. He picked up a guitar before he picked up a set of drums. And so that was his first instrument. That's why the transition to the Foo Fighters was so simple for him. But focusing on Lithium, love the passionate ambivalence that Kurt Cobain sings with. I'm so ugly, but that's okay, because so are you. Well, fuck you, Kurt. One of the songs that Kurt and for those of you who don't know, Kurt Cobain initially wanted to separate Nevermind into two parts, a boy part and a girl part. The girl part where he talks about heartache, the boy part where he talks about rage and angst. And there was a relationship that Kurt had before Courtney Love, Bikini Kill band member by the name of Toby Vale. And I think it was Kurt's true love, because she inspired so many of the heartbreak songs on this album. And I think Lithium was a song that was inspired by her, if I read that correctly. I love the couldn't care less ethos, but combined with when he starts shouting, it's a contradiction, but he's really saying, I'm trying to convince myself that I don't want this, but I really do want it. And I'm cracking. Everybody thinks it's about schizophrenia because of the Lithium song title, but it's really about relationships and about what he's going through. Let me ask you this. If Nevermind, and we'll cut in between me right now. If Nevermind leads off with Lithium instead of Smells Like Teen Spirit, does the band explode like this? What do you guys think?
I think so.
I think so. I mean, it has a similar tone. I wouldn't say it's as commercial, but I think it fits that particular quiet to loud grunge pop sound that they were trying to make, something that's new and something that was like, completely other bands modeled themselves after all throughout the 90s. So I still think that they have a extremely, this huge success because of who they were, what they were singing about, and the style of rock music they created.
I think there's at least 4 songs off of this album that could have been the lead single and still would have, because they were already, they had already developed this huge buzz, whether they wanted to or not. They were the ones that were picked to break open this new style, this new, take on the world that, wasn't bubblegum and or gangster rap or something like that. This was, they were the ones that were going to lead that charge, whether they wanted to or not. So I think I think their hometown fans and their original base knew that. And so it wasn't going to matter what song. And like I said, I think there's about 4 songs off of this album that could have been great lead off songs.
Excellent. I agree with both of you on that. In Rolling Stone, Cobain mentioned in an interview that this song was about having a breakdown. I think this song perfectly tethers the album. If Smells Like Teen Spirit is the if Smells Like Teen Spirit is the leadoff hitter, Lithium bats cleanup. I will give you that. My only knock is that it's so steeped in an experience that I think we didn't quite get. Many of us still don't quite get it. People still make the argument that its angle is about religious zealousy, others about a disorder. I think Kurt has said it's about a breakup, about a breakdown. And I think the fact that it's such a paradox that not a lot of people really grasp. But then again, that could be the beauty of the song. We take what we want from it, right? And that's why we like it. It could be about mental breakdown. It could be about relationship. It could be about religion. And you take what you want from it, right? Some people like that. Some people don't. But I think the song swung over a lot of people's heads. They thinking it was Nirvana proselytizing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think it gives the album a sharp turn. Once you get to this song, that's when you see where the album is sort of like, we're not all loud. We're not all about angst and about, we're also about desire. We're also about relationship. And we could couple that with this apathy and this angst. And I know this is a show about arguing music. I don't think we're going to argue any of these songs because we love all of them. But Lithium's a great song. Joseph Gordon-Levitt does a great cover of it as well. It's a great song. I don't have
Joseph just gave me an ugly face right now. Look at that face like you make like when somebody says something bad and you're like, what the fuck?
Have you not heard his cover?
No, I told you I don't particularly look for Nirvana covers, man. I don't. I don't like to hear them.
I think you mentioned a great word. You used the word contradiction. That I miss you. I'm not gonna crack. I love it. I'm not gonna crack. Like that fucking contradiction part of the song and the chorus is just amazing, dude.
Yeah, it's a great song. Joseph,
great song. Obviously, like you mentioned, it's hard to. We're not going to argue too crazy, I don't think, about these songs because they're all such favorite songs. This is one of those songs that I mentioned that I was talking about that could have been a lead single where Smells Like Teen Spirit was this like, you know, punch in the face, you know, kick down the door. Here we are, entertain us. Opening for the band and introduction to the mainstream and the rest of the world. This song probably, yeah, like you mentioned, is the number 2, or what did you call it? You called it cleanup. I'd say this is. I think there's only 3 videos from this, and music videos aren't going to matter. I don't think that matters with when we talk about these songs. I think they do help, and I think this is one of the. There's only 3, and I think this is one. At least I believe the video is nothing fancy. It's Come As You Are, It Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I think there's a video for Lithium.
Yeah,
it's nothing. Oh, and in Bloom. Okay, yeah. The 4 songs that honestly I think could have been their single. Maybe adding Drain You to that. It's nothing fancy and it doesn't need to be. The song is great. It still I think captures that sound that
Popo.
Cops.
Sorry.
Joseph's neighborhood, everybody.
That's why they were saying Jesus saves with you, buddy, in the corner.
Outcry in the barrio. It was perfect. It was a very good song where Smells Like Teen Spirit got you fired up. This one kept you going, and it's an awesome song.
People going.
There's not too much bad to say about it. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
So did I win? Yes, no. It's over, baby.
No, you're definitely top.
I don't think anybody's winning.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's winning this one. I know for sure that, you know, because as we mentioned before, this is going to be a series of bands that we all like. So when we say we all like them, we're all going to choose songs that probably the other 2 are going to enjoy.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to argue.
It would be, and we're not going to do a U2 one, not after my impression last week during our Saved by the Bell episode.
For all the starving children?
Yeah. So we won't do that one. So we're going to go to my selection. I selected In Bloom. Now, Kurt Cobain explained that he had a disdain for rednecks, macho men, and abusive people. He said that this song was an attack on all these types. The irony being that that the album this song became popular on was purchased by who? By jock, macho men, rednecks, all these guys that Kurt Cobain despised. He had them singing along to a song that was disparaging to their manly culture and added lyrics to further enforce these shitheads had no idea what the fuck they were singing about, but they were singing along, and it's in the lyrics. You don't know what I'm talking about. In Bloom was released as the album's 4th and final single in November of 1992 and generated heavy airplay, reaching number 5 on the mainstream rock chart. And in 2002, Rolling Stone interview, Chris Novoselic recalled that Cobain went home and he hammered it. He did this on one take. He started singing it on the phone, and he sort of told Chris Novoselic, "I have this song idea. Check it out." He starts playing this over the phone on his acoustic guitar. Right away, they knew it was going to be a hit. Let's get in the studio. I knew it was going to be more of a pop thing, said Novoselic, but I knew it was going to be a huge hit. And Butch Vig was already familiar with it, so this was one of the songs he enjoyed working most on Nevermind. And I know that there was multiple vocal layers. So Kurt struggled with this song because if you listen to this song, it's Kurt doing vocal on top of vocal. He's going high, he's going low. And it took a long time for them to perfect that. And Nirvana to me is the best when they shift from quiet to loud. We've mentioned that. It's a formula that made them rise to prominence, as we saw on Smells Like Teen Spirit. With this track and the tonal shifts, the multiple layered chorus, the distorted guitar solo, and the way they sing, I mean, the way he sings opens and slams the door shut, and it's just so masterful. And hands down, one of my favorite videos, the Ed Sullivan parody, the superficial spirit of this song rings true today. Kurt smiling and looking like Rivers Cuomo in the video. They look like they had fun with this song. I watched a lot of Nirvana interviews, and although the punk aesthetic is omnipresent in their interviews and performances, they were really funny, witty, laid-back guys. You'd watch their interviews, they would rib on each other. They were just normal guys, just having a good time. We hand off Nirvana with angst. We talk about their dark periods on purpose. and that we forget that these were three normal guys who made endearing and enduring music and kept it real within the band. They loved fucking around with people, and nothing shows that more than this song. This song is a total, I mean, it's in play, but it's also a mind fuck. It's funny. It has a great, amplification about the spirit of the times. And I love listening to this song. I thought it's their best song. What do you guys think?
I'm mind fucking you right now. Yeah, this In Bloom, man. In Bloom was I really enjoyed their video. Really enjoyed the song. It's like I said, every goddamn song of that Nevermind album, most of them were just amazing. It's one I could hear over and over again. But in my personal opinion, I think it's the most commercial song off of this album. I think it may hurt it a little bit. I think it's more commercial than It Smells Like Teen Spirit was like, here we are. In Bloom is like, here we are again, and maybe you'll like this one too, that kind of shit. Not saying that I dislike the song. I really like the song. I just don't think it's the best because it's the most commercial one off this album. You all might feel the same, or maybe you may feel differently. The lyrics, I was watching an interview with Chad Channing where they were saying, they were talking about lyrics, and in particular, they mentioned this song, and they were talking about lyrics, and it was like, Kurt was like, what rhymes with this? And what rhymes with that? And what rhymes with this? So like the fucking lyrics, they're just kind of throwing together shit that just rhymed. You know what I mean? There was no like specific storyline for this particular song in that little chorus line where they're just, rhyming words together, which again, love this song, love this band. But if we're arguing who's the greatest, I think that kind of holds it back a little bit. Again, it's a little too commercial. They were kind of like throwing lyrics together just because they rhymed and, there wasn't a real reason for it. And lastly, I know you'd mentioned this, from what I read, it wasn't just rednecks and like jocks that they were like kind of poking fun of. They were poking fun at all these people that started showing up to their live shows after the Bleach album kind of hit that level of, semi-success. So they were kind of making fun of their fans, though, or not their original fans, but the fans that started showing up and watching their shows after they had a little bit of commercial success. So it kind of, at least to me, in my personal opinion, if we're talking about greatest songs, I think it kind of holds it back from being the greatest song because one, a little commercial. Two, they're throwing rhyming lyrics together just to finish the line. And three, it's kind of poking fun at their fans. So are we really able to say like, this is their greatest song when they have X, Y, and Z about it? That's my personal take on it. What do you think about that, Joseph?
Wait, real quick, are you telling me it's not smart to rhyme mood and food? I just want to know. All right.
I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb.
We gotta stop talking. Dumb is a great song. We gotta stop mentioning making fun of. This is a really good song. Again, this one probably more so than some others. I thought if this was the song to kick down the doors, like we mentioned, it could have been their opener too. If it was their opener, maybe it wouldn't have been as commercial, like Bob mentioned in his take. Although Smells Like Teen Spirit kind of is the same at this point. I mean, everybody knows it. Everybody knows that video. It's iconic. The video I thought was the visual for it, and we're not here to talk about videos, but the visual, it was great. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was awesome. It was this fuck you to the establishment type thing as well. There's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Stuff that they put in the video that to give hints to what Randy was mentioning, the lyrics were about. It's not, you don't hear as much in the radio as you would think. And it goes back to probably what people think, I guess, are the best songs. Because when I hear, and I don't listen to too much local radio as much as I used to, but when I would, it was clearly Smells Like Teen Spirit. It was Come As You Are, and it was actually Lithium. We don't hear Polly. We don't hear Breed not Breed. In Bloom as much as the other three, but it is a really good song. And like I said, I think it could have been a solid opener as well. And I did watch a documentary on the recording, and I thought the way that they produced it was awesome. I know people are going to say like the album was so overproduced, but it was a good album, and it really was. And I watched how Butch, layered the vocals and throwing in Dave Grohl's vocals as well. You're right. Dave Grohl's a huge, he's vital to the success of Nirvana. Really great song. And I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that. As far as cover versions, again, I don't. Sturgill Simpson did a really cool, bizarre country cover of the song. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
I like that cover.
It was actually kind of cool because that guy, he's kind of cool. He's out there.
But you gave Randy a dirty look when he mentioned, what was the name? Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But then you're mentioning this off-putting country star singing fucking In Bloom.
Joseph. It was to wrap up the In Bloom portion. I think it was, and you're right. The lyrics, as simplistic as they might appear, they work. I believe they're not as complex as the layering of the song. I think Butch Vig, having been exposed to this song, because this was a song they performed a lot when they were on the come up after Bleach, and they had played, so he was familiar with this song, and he's like, how could I tinker with a song I already know? And I think he made this song his biggest pet project on the album. Well, I mean, I guess you could argue Smells Like Teen Spirit was the one that was changed the most, but I think In Bloom was the one that was changed for the best. And layering it with the vocals and then moving that guitar grind. I think he moved it from a certain part of the song to towards the end. And it was just, I just thought structurally, intellectually, and of course, visually, it was just their best piece. And it's what I remember of Nirvana, them having fun in the video. And maybe I like it a lot because you see Kurt smile, you see them having a good time, and you're like, this band wasn't always about fucking hatred and my life is bleak and things are hopeless. They were also a very fun, creative band.
I thought you were going to say they were also about making money. That's why they made this commercial song.
They were also about that too. I can't argue that. But Joseph, what was your pick?
All right, so I'll try to do this without sounding too out there as far as, my take on this song. So I went with Heart Shaped Box. This was my pick. It's lead single from the album In Utero, their third and final album. It was released August 30th in 1993. Like you mentioned earlier, Randy, the 28-year anniversary was just a few days ago. That's really crazy saying 28-year anniversary out loud. It's insane how much time has passed. So originally produced by Steve Albini, the album's producer and engineer. However, the record company felt it needed to be remixed for, I guess, more commercial success. And so Scott Litt was brought in to handle that. And thankfully, due to the album being remastered and released over time, you can hear the original cut. And honestly, I think they both sound very good. It's basically the same song. If I take heat for that, so be it. If you can hear something that I can't hear, great, good for you. But I do feel they're very much the same song. So do yourself a favor, go listen to both of them, and I guess make up your own mind on that. A bit of the history on it. Cobain actually wrote this song in 1992, and he had actually forgotten about it. He had forgotten about it for a while, and he began working on it again when he and Courtney moved into this house in the Hollywood Hills. This house is very famous. I think it was on the market not too long ago, and actually, considering its history, it sold very cheap, but beautiful house, by the way. Anyway, Courtney was quoted as saying, yeah, I wish, right? Courtney was quoted as saying that she overheard Kurt working on the song's riff in the closet and asked him if she could use the riff for one of her songs, to which he replied, "Fuck you," and closed the door. Great job, Kurt.
They closed the door outside of the house, not in the closet.
Because, that girl was just trying to take everything she could from Kurt. Anyway.
Still is.
Yeah. The song's name comes from the heart-shaped box that Courtney had given to Kurt, although he had originally titled the song Heart-Shaped Coffin, which I think speaks volumes to the subject matter of the song. There's a lot of speculation as to what that subject matter is, and although Kurt had once said the song was inspired by documentaries about children with cancer, most people believe, and I'll say most people because I can't tell you what this song is about, to be honest with you. And I'm not gonna tell you. There's just too much stuff, and if you read the lyrics and listen to the song, it's crazy. Most people believe that the song again is about Courtney and his relationship with her. There's reference to Pisces and Cancer, which was their zodiac signs, and of course, taking the opportunity to talk about herself. Courtney has said more than once that the song was written specifically about her vagina. Yeah. And so, there's a lot to try and take in when you listen to this song. And if you add the visual of the music video, you're probably going to ask yourself, what the fuck is going on? I mean, have you seen this video? It's awesome. It's crazy. It's tripped out. It's kind of creepy. It can be offensive to you if you're easily offended. It's just something. For me, this song, I think, is the first look at the side of Kurt that was building up inside that he maybe tried to keep hidden. And Heart-Shaped Box was the complete opposite of the angst adolescent anthem that we got from Smells Like Teen Spirit, with a more open, almost unsettling view of Kurt's mindset, maybe at the time. If you got to read these lyrics and really, kind of go down the rabbit hole and make your own assumption of that. while the video is maybe this like drug acid trip, the lyrics clearly are dark. And I think that the album in general is his swan song. As sad as it seems, of course, I think he was going to quit the music industry, and that's my opinion, but that's a whole another story. I think that's a lot of people's opinions, but again, that's a whole another story. The lyrics, "Hey, wait, I've got a new complaint," was his example of how he was perceived in the media, and I think he really hated that, and so that was also something that you look at this song and think to yourself, this is the beginning of what he's. And I think one of you mentioned it earlier, about how this album kind of had that feeling to it. She eyes me like a Pisces when I'm weak. That part, it does sound like he's writing about problems with him and Courtney, probably tension that they had living together. Unfortunately, lyrics aside, whatever your take on this, whatever your take is on this song, I remember first hearing it on the radio. That was, and that's how I heard, music back then. So I heard the song come on and at first I didn't know it was Nirvana. I knew who Nirvana was, obviously, with the first album and everything. And so I remember hearing this song, and I said to myself, wow, that sounds like Nirvana, but this is kind of dark and different, and the tone was real low, and it was something like new. It was different, and like that I was hearing then, and the build up, and then when we hear it, that whole beginning, and then we hear the hey, wait, that whole heavy part, it blew me away again, like the same feeling I had hearing Smells Like Teen Spirit for the first time. It was awesome. It was this whole new thing. It was different. Like I said, at first I wasn't quite sure I was listening to Nirvana, but it was, when I heard him scream, and I knew that I had to buy this album. I talked about enduring and long lasting. This song, it is that to me. I mentioned a cover earlier, and I want to give a shout out to this artist, even though she doesn't know anything about us or who the fuck we are. But I do recommend you go check it out. And the artist's name is Kawaihi. I don't know if I'm saying that
Leonard,
right.
he plays for the Clippers. Fuck yeah,
the Claw. So I'll spell it for you. It's Kawehi. Go search her cover of Heart-Shaped Box. I think it's freaking amazing, and I don't say that very often. It's haunting and very much in the spirit of the original. I know we talked earlier real quick.
I thought you were going to mention another country fucking artist.
No, kind of like the way Kawhi haunts the Spurs. Yes, I agree. But go ahead.
I think we were talking about, you had mentioned when we talked about covers earlier, you mentioned Tori Amos. You asked if it was female, and I think you said it was Tori Amos. Well, the cover of this one, I didn't want to give it away then, was Lana Del Rey did a cover of this, and it kind of made of this song, and it made some noise because everybody thought it was this awesome thing. And of course, Courtney took the opportunity to tell the world that the song was written about her. And I think, the list of songs written about her is over 100 at this point. According to her, every Smashing Pumpkins song is written about her. So whatever. Anyway,
even though
I can never get tired of hearing this song, man. I think its impact is huge because it was the start of what sadly was his end, I believe, and the end to his music career again. Again, another story for another time. And I think it's impossible as much as I think it's impossible to list any top 10, 20, whatever you want to call it, list of Nirvana songs, because of the many ones that weren't singles or the B-sides that were released on Insecticide, the unreleased songs, they're all good and they all go on this list. I mean, you probably have to rank every song ever, and I think it's over 100. As much as, it's like I mentioned, it's hard to do that. In doing my research for this song, I did look at some lists, and I think it is worth noting that on about 3 or 4 of them, I don't remember, this song was listed in the top 3 of pretty much all of those. It was either first, second, or third, and I think it's worth noting that Smells Like Teen Spirit wasn't actually first, second, or third in a lot of those, and that's not to say that it wasn't a great song. I think one of the lists had Silver, and that's a great song, kind of out there to be the best Nirvana song, but I think it speaks volumes for this song to put it in every list that I saw, at least, because I say I can't do it, say that it's in the top 3. That's my song, man. I mean, I can listen to the song over and over, like I mentioned. I just think it's awesome, and I think it's great. Its impact is huge because it's the final steps of what we saw.
When Nirvana recorded In Utero in February of 1993, they wanted to make a raw, stripped down album that took them back to their roots after the polished and pop influence Nevermind. They fucking did it. I thought that album was brilliant. And even though it didn't sell as much as Nevermind, I think they went out on their own accord. And Utero was their most complete sounding album because they were at their creative apex, and the band members had the upper hand coming off of Nevermind. No longer was how do we get this loud and keep it poppy? You heard hints of bands like The Doors, Leadbelly, Joy Division, Black Sabbath, Black Flag, the Pixies, all over this album. And it was, and that's Nirvana clearly stepping up and saying, this is who influences us. This is how we want to interpret it. And this is how we want to sound. Press record and shut the fuck up. Actually, it's pretty funny because you mentioned Steve Albini, who produced this record, Joseph. I think he was most famous for producing a lot of the Pixies albums. I'm not 100% sure. But I remember that they didn't even credit him with a production credit. They put recorded by, and Kurt summarized this by saying he got paid $2 million to record us. He should be fucking happy. I was watching an old MTV clip, and when this album was released in 1993, and in this video they handed random college students copies of the CD and told them, take it home and come back tomorrow for a review, or when CDs were around and you could trust people to bring them back. And everyone predicted Heart Shaped Box would be their hit single, and you could hear it. I think it's fourth on the album. I think it's the fourth song. It's third. Okay, it's the third song on the album. And I mean, yes, we all love shouting, hey, wait. I know when I play it, my kid loves to shout that. The lyrics were ambiguous, of course, like many of Nirvana's songs. It's a loaded song, man. I mean, illness, love, rebirth, sarcasm. Lyrically, it's probably Nirvana's most vague and complex song, and they've had a shitload of them. We just talked about it with Bob's selection of Lithium. I think the fact that it's been misinterpreted by so many, maybe even me, maybe even all of us, has sort of skewed the song to feel like a puzzle. And sometimes we are robbed of a true meaning because by this point, we are now picking Kurt's life apart. And I think that sours the song. I think when we try to look too much into it, and of course we're getting intercepted by Courtney Love's, hey, it's about me, but yet we don't know what it's really about. And so what I'm trying to say is that we need to stop overanalyzing, and we really need to appreciate what is one of their best songs. I honestly think it's the third or fourth best song on the album. I liked Serve the Servants. I thought Rate Me was a better song. But
you liked Dumb. Say you liked the Dumb.
Dumb was last on my list. But I think it's a great song, and it was a great lead-off song. I don't think it was the best song on the album, but I think it was the best song to lead off. Bob?
And that's
hold on real quick, Bob. Well, before you go, Bob, I just want to say what you mentioned earlier, it was what I didn't mention that, and I meant to, I had written down on some notes. I think the fact that it's so, we don't exactly know what this song is about, I think that's what makes it even better. It's legend, and we're never gonna know, unfortunately, but that's cool. To me, that's cool. If you're and if you feel robbed, then you have that, you can feel that way. Anybody can feel the way they want to about the song. I just think that it's so fucking cool. It's one of those songs that we have to this day that we don't know what it's about, but we know it's so good, and its mystery, I think it takes it to another level.
I think you're reading too much into it. I think we know exactly what it's about. But having said that, real quick before I get into that, I definitely think that this is the best song off this album. It's probably one of their top 5 songs of all time from any fucking album. It's really hard to argue against. When y'all made your selections, In Bloom, I really liked. But Heart Shaped Box, that was one of the ones I was thinking, like, fuck, how am I going to argue against Heart Shaped Box? Because that song is one of my favorites. Full disclosure, it's one of my favorite songs off of any one of their albums. It's a song that I can listen to over and over again. Again, the video is fucking weird. Like you mentioned, the Santa Claus Jesus on the crucifix kind of out there, the kid dressed as in the KKK hood and outfit. I was like, what the fuck is this all about? All set on the Land of Oz or some dark fucked up version of it, right? It's a weird video to go with the weird song, but you're like, oh, and it's so mysterious. The lyrics, there's nothing fucking mysterious about it. Courtney obviously gave him a heart-shaped box. She sent it to him. They mentioned Pisces and Cancer, which is both their signs. It's obviously a song about her. And, I think she's taken enough shit from the band. It's hard for me to say the greatest Nirvana song is a song about Courtney Love, because fuck her. So that's one thing I can definitely argue against, and that's going to be my biggest argument. I don't think that this should be considered Nirvana's greatest song because I think we're giving Courtney Love too much credit. Again, Like she's
We're gonna
been
get
trying to
sued.
take away from that. Like she's been trying to take away from Smashing Pumpkins, and like she's trying to say like every song. This song was obviously about her. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. I think it disqualifies this song from being their greatest song because again, it makes it all about her rather than Kurt, Chris Ed, and Dave Grohl. So again, it's one of my favorite songs. It will always be one of my favorite songs, but it cannot be their greatest song. And I don't give a shit if anybody disagrees with me on that point. My main point is that it's a song about her or their relationship. And to be like, that's the greatest song, then it kind of lets her puff out her chest and be like, yeah, of course it is, because it's about me. Of course it is. I had a big impact on them. And fuck that. They were already great before her. A lot of Nevermind songs were written before her. A lot of the Heartbreak songs were written before her. And I think there's a lot of songs that we consider the greatest song for Nirvana that doesn't include this particular song. Is it one of my favorites? For damn sure. Is it the greatest song? Fuck no. Okay. And that's something I'll argue till I'm blue in the face.
Quick opinion. I don't think it's even the best song about a woman on the album. I think Francis Farmer's a better song about a woman in that album. I love that song, but I think that's also, to your point, Joseph, is Heart-Shaped Box we were more exposed to it. And, you kind of have that sort of recency bias where if you listen to something, it sounds kind of new, you like it more, where Heart-Shaped Box, we were exposed to it so much. Mm-hmm. So I'm also trying to factor that into my decision. I love the song though, and I thought it was the song to release the album to. It wasn't my favorite song on the album, but it was the right choice to lead off the album.
I do want to say something real quick though. I just thought it was cool and worth mentioning. Was it Bob? Bob talked to, or we talked about Where Did You Sleep Last Night and that performance and that look at the end of that performance.
Oh yeah, his last breath. The last breath.
And it's kind of like what did you guys said it? It's kind of like it's the end. You see it there. He's at the end of his road, and it's kind of haunting. The thing that stood out to me when I watched this video again was, if you've seen at the end of this video, and what I mentioned in my take was that like this was the beginning of the end for him, and we just really and then we saw the complete end at the end of that performance. At the end of this video, when Kurt and Chris are like sitting on the hospital bed in the back, and you see Kurt like pick his head up, and he's got this like weird spaced out like, and his eyes are open like wide too, and he's just kind of like staring off into space with this weird smile, and then he kind of just like he stops smiling and he's still got that spaced out look, and it reminded me when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is kind of reminiscent of, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but it's weird. It's weird to see that look in this video and then see the look at the end of that performance on Unplugged, and they're both very haunting images. I don't know if you remember that, but like, oh, for sure, check it out. Like it's the look in his eyes is just like at the end where he's like, your advice. It's like
at that point, Kurt Cobain was battling a $400 a day heroin habit. He was completely out. I think he had a death wish. I think he knew. There's rumors that he was going to do a sort of stripped down, sort of maybe acoustic or concept album with Michael Stipe from REM, who was a huge influence on Cobain. And that was going to be, I don't think Nirvana was going to have another album after. I don't think he could sustain that type of energy.
I think he was going to quit. I think he was ready to leave the music industry, but
totally.
Huh?
Completely.
At least take a break from the band.
I think he was ready to,
and from Courtney. Fuck, man.
Tiring.
That brings us to our last questions. I think I could combine this one. Where do you guys place Nirvana in the pantheon of rock bands, and what is their legacy?
I would say that they're pretty high. I cannot say top 5, maybe top 10. Definitely top 10 for their huge impact on the 90s and on grunge music, and that transition from 80s rock music to 90s, grunge, pop, alternative. And they had a huge influence on the music scene and on bands thereafter. Everybody modeled their music or their riffs or their, the distortion that they used, just their sound, man. They had such a huge impact on the 90s. And, like you mentioned that Nevermind came out in what, 93? 92? 91. Uh-huh. And then in Utero came out in 93.
Yes,
and Utero came out in 93. I mean, that's really early on in the 90s that they had their 2 biggest albums. And they were just so influential in a lot of other bands. For that fact alone, they should be in the top 10 as far as a pantheon of rock music for creating that new sound, that different sound. It's something we hadn't heard of before, and it's something that's been modeled after since.
I agree with that. I'd say like what Bob said, top 10 most definitely of all time. There's way too many to put them in a top 5 situation, but top 10 most definitely because of them just bringing this new sound and leading the charge, like I mentioned earlier, whether they wanted to or not. It was this whole new thing. It was brought to the masses, and it paved the way for other bands, maybe who were making music at the same time, but weren't maybe getting the recognition as much as Nirvana was. And later they did, obviously. After Nirvana, everybody knew people knew who Pearl Jam was, or Soundgarden, or
Well, oddly
Alice in
enough,
Chains.
Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam were all the sort of like the sword bearers that were going to bring this new wave of music into prominence. But Nirvana snuck in there, like totally unexpected. This was a band who did their first album for $600 when they did Bleach. It was $600 for 3 days of recording. They had no idea they were going to explode like this. Nobody did. And I think that's why it's such a great story, because bands like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and all these other bands, they were primed. Smashing Pumpkins, you could go on and on. They were primed and ready to say, we're gonna be these rock purveyors we're gonna move the needle. We're gonna change the zeitgeist. Nirvana was just a band that we're loud. We have complex lyrics. We're great musicians. We're smart musicians. And that took over, and they were the flag bearers. I don't think they wanted that. I think they probably would have preferred a career more like a Stone Temple Pilots than say a career that they had. But
yeah, I can agree with that. I think that Kurt especially wanted to be like this huge rock star, but he also wanted to live a nice, quiet life, introverted life. He was like wanted the superstardom, but he also wanted to be able to walk down the street without anybody fucking with him or talking with him. Again, their influence was huge. I mean, there's songs that they have that they played in the Bleach album and Nevermind that sound a lot like No Doubt. They had a lot of influence on Green Day. Like, they have that punk roots, they have the grunge, they have the little pop, they have a lot of the drumming. I mean, a lot of the drumming, man. I mean, you could hear it in a lot of the other big name bands that were really popular in the 90s as well.
I think you guys would disagree with me because you've already listed. I would put Nirvana in my top 5. And I know what's against them is that their exposure in time, because you're really looking at 2.5 years of Nirvana being known everywhere. I didn't know who Nirvana was in 1989. I didn't know who Nirvana was in 1990. 1991 through 94 was my exposure to Nirvana. And maybe it's a generation thing. I'm from a different generation Gen X. You guys are millennials. I know you don't like that term.
What's funny that you mentioned that is like, I think Led Zeppelin had a bigger impact on me musically than you could say Nirvana did, and that's in the 70s, and I wasn't even a fucking thought in the 70s.
I do agree that Led Zeppelin is a bigger band. I would place the Beatles, Stones, and Zeppelin, obviously. I don't know. I think Nirvana would be 4 or 5 for me. I think they had that much of an impact, and what sucks is that we got cheated. We got cheated out of what could have been, and I don't say cheated just on the basis of their timeline. I think cheated off of what could have been if Kurt wasn't with Courtney Love, if Kurt wasn't a big heroin addict, if Kurt wasn't so hurt and blistered all through his life. If you've seen the documentary, he had a rough life growing up.
Oh yeah, dude.
Picked on, pissed on, horrible upbringing. And when you saw like the way he and Courtney Love lived, they lived like trailer park trash. These were multi-millionaires getting, and just throwing their money away and looking like trash. And I don't know, man. I think just so many things sidetracked them, and for them to be as stable as they were for those 4 or 5 years that they were releasing those albums, I think says a lot. And I think we got robbed. But then again, the Beatles were only around for what, 7-10 years. Led Zeppelin wasn't around too long. I mean,
yeah, again, they had a really short career as well. Yeah. They had a 5-year stretch or something like that too. Only a 5-6 year stretch.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I would put Nirvana in my Mount Rushmore, my pantheon. I would put them in my top 5. I mean, they just, I don't know. And maybe it's because the way they impacted me and changed my life. I just love them for it. And I think we answered this question about Kurt Cobain being alive. What would we do? Last couple of questions. Your last thoughts on Courtney Love. Did she ruin this band? Was it all on her? I mean, do we have her to blame?
Oh, I mean, I don't think we have her to blame. Kurt's drug addiction had a huge impact on the band. But then again, if you're married to Courtney Love, why wouldn't you be doing $400 of fucking heroin a day? She just has that thing where she's Kurt was such an introvert and she was such an extrovert, and she was always out there in the media and out there. So she made it about herself a lot. I truly believe, for band members who didn't really talk that much, she did a lot of talking for the band, even when she wasn't supposed to or wasn't her place. So, I thought she did bring a negative kind of connection to the band, but I wouldn't say that she had a huge negative impact on them, because then you're giving her too much power. And I don't think she had that kind of power. She may have had that kind of power over Kurt as far as their marriage is concerned, but I don't think over the band.
I'd have to agree. It's both. Clearly, he had the drug problem. I think her influence was probably not the best, and it showed. But like Bob said, she didn't influence the other two members. You can read about it. Courtney. Why am I always fucking putting two words together?
Combine like J-Lo and Ben Affleck.
It's been on record. Courtney has said, and supposedly they were made peace, but I think that went out the door too. Courtney has said numerous times that Kurt did everything, and Kurt wrote and it was all Kurt, and the other two didn't do shit. And then that's what's sad.
She did try to put it
very sad,
even when they were alive. Yeah, when he was alive. Yeah.
So it's both. I think yes, it's I don't know. I can't say it's a 50-50 split. I'd say 60-40. 60 Courtney, 40 the drugs. But it definitely is. It's both. I mean, she's not to blame for everything, but I think she takes a brunt of that. And of course, Kurt's issues with drugs and trying to cope with everything around him. So it's both.
Know there was a point where the band were splitting the royalties equally, and then when In Utero came out, the songwriting royalties were split differently. I think Kurt got 75% compared to the 25% that Chris and Dave Grohl had to split. And I think Courtney masterminded. I think she put in his head a lot that, hey, you're the band. And we also saw remnants of when Kurt died, Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic, they said, we can't form a band together and you can't have Nirvana without Kurt. I think they did a very wise thing. And now that leads us to talking a little bit about the Foo Fighters and the amazing job Dave Grohl's done. Foo Fighters, I mean, he was writing this music when he was still in Nirvana. He released the single in 1995 because he played all the instruments, sang all the vocals for Foo Fighters' first album. And now here we are, 26 later, Foo Fighters are still as great as ever. I mean, credit Dave Grohl for, sticking with it. I mean, what a career that guy's had.
Oh, yeah, man. Like I said, one of the reasons why they got rid of Chad Channing, the drumming wasn't there, but also because Dave Grohl wasn't just going to sit by and okay, whatever you guys want to do, we'll do. Like, he had his own ideas. He did write music. He did write lyrics. He did write songs. He did play multiple instruments. So he's an extremely talented guy. And like I said, you wouldn't have Nirvana without Dave Grohl. Just as much as you wouldn't have Nirvana without Kurt Cobain. It's a testament to his, his music prowess, or whatever you want to call it, that he's had so much success, because Dave Grohl's fucking amazing. He is fucking awesome. You can't take anything away from him, man. I couldn't say a negative thing about him. Some might ask the question, well, would the Foo Fighters be such a huge success if he wasn't in Nirvana? Maybe, maybe not. But you know what? That guy would have success somewhere, because he is such a great musician. He is such a great guitarist, drummer, lead singer, everything, man. I mean, it wasn't just, you could say that Kurt Cobain was a genius, but Kurt Cobain saw the genius in Dave Grohl, and there's another reason why they wanted to bring him into the fold through Nirvana.
Agreed.
First audition, Kurt Cobain said, "That's our guy." Once he sat down and started playing,
that's our guy.
And one last thing about Dave Grohl, you made a good point, Bob, where he didn't have the weight of Nirvana helping him on the next level. When he did the Foo Fighters, he got a lot of no's. He got a lot of, you got to do this, you got to do that. He didn't come in. He wasn't introduced. The drummer of Nirvana has this band. He had to build that band from the ground up. He had to make some cuts, bring people in, push people out, make decisions on recording. I mean, he really full-fledged.
I think the best thing that he could have done is he didn't try to sound like Nirvana. He tried to sound like Dave Grohl's rock band. You know what I mean? Yeah. They didn't sound like Nirvana, and I think that's what helped him, because he had kind of a different, he definitely had a different sound than what Nirvana was bringing to the table, and that created his own style of music, which people really gravitated towards. I think if he tried to do like a Nirvana redo or like something that sounded very similar to it, I don't think it would have had the best result. Yeah, I don't think the audience would have been sided with him.
Last thoughts on Nirvana, guys. Their legacy, their impact.
Like I mentioned in the beginning, man, I owe that entire album to my musical identity, and I'm so happy that I heard it because I love the music that I listen to. And I don't know if I hadn't heard that album long ago, what I'd be listening to. I mean, but I can't not agree or at least acknowledge that yeah, that's what put me on my path. So great band. Unfortunately, we don't know what could have been, and that's a little bit sad, but we got what we got, and it clearly impacted my life and your all's too. So tops.
Growing up at that age and time, us being young, we're kids, and then growing into teens and really getting into music and rock music. Nirvana had a huge influence on me, just as much as Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Metallica did, and Ozzy and Black Sabbath. Nirvana, man, they were a great band with some great lyrics that were completely different from what we were used to, and I think a lot of people really connected with it and really loved the band and its lyrics and its sound because of how different it was, and their ability to really connect with the lyrics or the sound or the anger or the heartbreak or whatever it is that the case was. So I'm really fortunate to have people around me that kind of played that music for me, you being one of them, Rand. And I'm really fortunate to have really stuck with it and listened to a lot of it, and not been one of those guys that bought the Nirvana shirt to buy the Nirvana shirt. I was the guy that listened to that fucking music, when no one was around or when people were around, and I just loved the music, man. And hopefully there's new generations, like we said, our age, guys our age, women our age, are having kids, and we can show those kids the type of music we listen to in the Nirvanas and the Green Days and the Soundgardens and Alice in Chains and STP and so on and so on. So that way they, that kind of music can kind of live on. Maybe it'll inspire somebody to write some cool shit, make some cool shit in the future.
I'll put it simply as this. Just the right band at the right time. I mean, the moment I heard them, the moment I brought the CD, even listening to them last week, as I started off the show, I said, this is a sort of bucket list. I get to revisit, not only with you guys, but all these old friends of mine, Nirvana and the memories I had with these shows and these movies. And for some reason, I wrote most of this of my notes, ironically enough, in a coffee shop that started in Seattle. I was working on my notes at a Starbucks and just listening to Nirvana and realizing, holy shit, I miss these guys so much. And I think I took it for granted because it was such a quick time.
How hard do you think Kurt Cobain would have rolled his eyes right now that you were saying, I was at a Starbucks, listening to Nirvana, writing my notes on this. Motherfucker just rolled over in his grave like, God damn it. That is exactly what I was talking about. This is exactly what I was talking about.
He's the kind of people we don't want.
Motherfucker. God damn it. I'm just kidding. I thought that was
man. My very last question. Can I talk you guys into doing a best Pearl Jam song in the future?
No. Me, I'd do it, but I don't think Bob can.
Well, I mean, there's only 3 fucking songs to choose from, and we're gonna have to go with those 3. Jesus Christ!
All right, that's our show, everyone. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. What is your all-time favorite, the best Nirvana song in your opinion? What songs did we not mention? I think we covered them all. Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram by searching for Formidable Opponents. Join us next week as we argue biggest movie betrayal. That's right, we're arguing biggest movie betrayal next week. For Bob and for Joseph, this is Randall. Y'all take care.
Fucking Starbucks.